Okay, I want to go through the Darlie Routier Fact and Fiction page. You can find that on Google. It's written by our friend Mary Moody. I want to be sure it's in video form in case it goes away. Please forgive me. I'm very sick and my back is killing me. Separating the truth from lies in a Darlie Routier trial. I've already done the introduction, the who's who, the Routier's statements, the arrest warrant. I'm going to put all these in a playlist, the Fact or Fiction playlist. In my Darlie Routier playlist, I believe I have about 400 videos now. Most all of them are mine. Precious Angels in Arthur Barb Davis is the same thing. I read the book twice. I just recently read it again. I'm waiting to hear back from Onyx Publications to be sure that I can read it off on my YouTube channel without getting a copyright infringement lawsuit put on me. I wrote to them and I haven't heard back. I read the epilogue out. But let's see what I know what this says. I want to be sure and put it out there. And please bear with me. I'm very sick. One of the most comprehensive accounts of the Darlie Routier case is Barbara Davis's book, Precious Angels, published in 1999. She left no doubt in the readers' minds that Darlie is guilty as charged. As explained in Statement 3, which we haven't got to the statements yet, she did an about-face after her book came out, proclaiming that she had discovered hidden evidence that proved that Darlie was innocent. This revelation brought Miss Davis a good deal of media attention, a real plus for book sales. But strangely enough, she has never retracted any of the content in her book. Now, there's more to her book than just I didn't see evidence that she talks about in the book. She said she didn't see it, but she talks about it. Just really quickly, I'm just going to read a random page. I mean, she talks about it all, and they never sued her. I was wondering why they never sued her, because you can't sue if someone's stating the truth. You can't sue. After the funeral, Darren and Darlie and the rest of the family gathered at Mama Darlie's home. Relatives sat in the warm summer sun and chatted. All out-of-town family members had reservations made for them at various Holiday Inns in surrounding towns. Channel 5 News had spoken to Darren soon after his children's murders, offering to foot the bill for all rooms for family members with one condition. Darren had to promise to give an exclusive interview to them. Based on the father's promise, reservations were made for all out-of-town relatives. A lot of family came to town for the viewing and funeral. Though it cost a pretty penny, that penny would soon turn into gold for the news station. So, that must be true. I mean, within a few days of the deaths of Devin and Damon, the family is already profiting off of it to give that exclusive interview out. Which it was also found out that they had worked out a deal with Paramount too. Well, I'll get into that some other time. But I remember this. But strangely enough, she has never redacted any of the content in her book. Never. Here's another one, and that you can see. Once a doting mother, she became a screaming tyrant who ordered the kids to stay the hell out of the house. Jackie Rogers, a family member, says Now, she was always yelling stuff like, "Get your asses out of here," or "Get your ass downstairs." She ordered little Devin around so bad and beat him down. It was my opinion, emotional abuse of that child. That's in page 81. I think I've got that page. Just taking a look here. I think I think that's one of the ones that I folded down. And it is. Let's follow. Yet despite these glowing words, others remember a different story. Jackie recalled. She hated kids in the house anymore. She was always screaming at Devin. Poor Devin. He always got the worst of it, but he never complained. Never stopped loving his mother. Kids are amazing that way. She was always yelling stuff like, "Get your asses out of here," to the boys. Yep, it's word for word. Yep, it's word for word. It's crazy how this book is, actually. Jenny Langford put it this way. Darlie was content as long as the boys were gone. She didn't care anymore where the boys were as long as they weren't around her. Family and friends also witnessed screaming matches between Darren and Darlie on an increasingly frequent basis. Is any of this a lie? I want to ask the Darlie supporters who respond to this video. Is any of this a lie? And keep in mind that Barb Davis, she was threatened to be sued over the lie detector test part. Well, she talked a little bit about that in this book. But she's not been sued for this type of slander and publishing false information, has she? Darren grew furious with Darlie about her weight. One day he arrived home early from work. Then, when unknown to him, Karen Neal had Drake in the living room, changing his diaper. Why was Karen Neal changing his diaper if Darlie was home? Darlie was in the family room and Darren started screaming at her. "You're just a fat pig." He warned his wife in no uncertain terms that she would either lose weight in a month or he would find somebody else. Karen calmly walked in, looked at Darren and said, "Well, hello, Darren." The embarrassed husband immediately dropped the subject. This is what I don't understand. And this goes more to say how she liked to put things off as far as the kids, off onto other people. Why is Karen Neal in one room with Drake, changing his diaper, and Darlie was in another room? What was she doing that she couldn't change her own son's diaper? I mean, it's not a big, huge deal, but it goes to show she had maids, she had babysitters, and now she's got the lady across the street changing the baby's diaper. There's three different things that, like, she's lazy or something. On Wednesday, June the 5th, one of the Routier neighbors stepped out to get the mail, Nelda Watts. She heard Darlie yelling at Devin and Damon. She'd had enough of their bullshit, and they were going to be in major fucking trouble when their father got home. That same day when Darren arrived home, he picked up a portable phone to call the VCR repair shop where he dropped off the unit earlier that day. Sam Greer answered the call, answered just as the recorded message started playing, and the conversation continued to record. As Darren explained what needed to be fixed, Mr. Greer's recorder taped Darlie in the background yelling at the kids and Darren. Mr. Greer flinched with every "fuck this" and "fuck that." I'd like to find Mr. Greer. During one of Patterson's visits at the hospital to check on Darlie, he mentioned that the dog had been barking like crazy and would not shut up. He told her a neighbor had to help calm him down just to pick him up and take him out of there. Darlie looked at the detective and responded, "Oh, he always goes off like that when someone he doesn't know walks in the door." Patterson was immediately alert. "Did you hear him bark the night of the attack?" Darlie paused and then calmly replied, "Come to think of it, no, he didn't." After the funeral, Darren and Darlie and the rest of the family gathered at Darlie Key's house. Darlie proceeded to announce that she and Darren had already made future plans. Darren was going to take Darlie to Europe to have the light scar on her throat removed. While they were there, she was going to conceive the little girl she had always wanted. One of the relatives present said, "I was shocked. It was like, this is what we want to happen? So it will. I lost my two children, but I'm replacing them soon." On page 138. Now, this next one, I asked Mercedes Adams about this particularly because she used to be on Darlie Key's friends list. I asked her this as a supporter when I was a supporter because I read this book as a supporter. Correction. I heard that she had said this. I didn't read this book until after I was in non-support. Matter of fact, they were sent to me. This one and Flesh and Blood were sent to me from my friend from Nova Scotia, Christine. She sent them to me just to be sure we had them. So that's my correction. But I did ask Darlie. I did ask Mercedes Adams this over Facebook personally, and I'll get to my answer in a moment. Darlie asked Mercedes Adams to go with her to see what damage the police had done to the house. Mercedes anticipated that Darlie would be overwrought upon visiting the scene of her children's murders. But as the two women entered the living room, Darlie shocked Mercedes by placing her hands on her hips and angrily declaring, "Look at this fucking mess. It's going to cost me a fortune to fix this shit." I put my hands on Darlie's shoulders and said, "Darlie, look me in the eyes and tell me you didn't kill the boys." She looked me in the eyes and said, "I'm going to get new carpet, new drapes. I'm going to fix this room all up." I couldn't believe it. When I asked Mercedes about this, she got angry with me, said she never said that. So is that a lie in Barb Davis's book? Can we trust her? Is she credible? At a pretrial hearing, the prosecutor asked about rumored deals with Paramount Entertainment concerning a movie or book rights to the Routier story. Darren steadfastly denied the rumors. It later came out in the press that Darlie, Mama Darlie, and Darren had signed a contract with an agent to place Darlie's life story. Money ain't for nothing, and your chicks for free. Darlie took a private polygraph test on October 4th, 1996. Mama Darlie waited at the jail to visit with her daughter as soon as the 6-hour test was over. When the deputy escorted Darlie back to her cell, mother and daughter embraced and Darlie began to sob. Curiously, Mama Darlie would vehemently deny she ever knew about the polygraph test. Instead of time after time, before the case went to trial, she protested that the police were refusing to give Darlie one. We've all seen my video on the lie detector test, and you could tell that Darlie Key is absolutely trapped. She did not expect that Robert Riggs would have that report, the same one that Barb Davis talks about in her book. I conducted a reenactment of the crime to test the defense team's contention that Darlie couldn't possibly have had time to murder her children and slit her throat regarding a 30 or 40-second sprint down the alley to ditch the sock. I made it in 50 seconds, and I'm a good 20 years older than Darlie. That's on page 310. Now here's a picture of Mama Darlie with Barb Davis standing right beside Devin and Damon's grave. Darlie Key is so angry at us non-supporters. She calls us morons. She calls us all kinds of names. She just says we're full of hate. But I wonder what she really thinks of Barb Davis. And why did Barb Davis really change her mind? Because she's got so many other things in here that point to her guilt besides those photos that she would have no reason to change her mind. Jamie Johnson, a Child Protective Services investigator, testified. As a responsible parent, Darren should choose his son's well-being and protection over his wife's defense. The fact that the family were trying to bond her out made the risk even greater. I'm just looking through the book really quickly. On July 15th, Greg Davis announced that the state would seek the death penalty, making Darlie Routier the first woman in Dallas County's history to stand trial where the state sought the death penalty. The last time a woman had been executed in a state in Texas was 1863. This is a really interesting book to read, and there's way more in this than what she talks about as far as her reasons for changing her mind. I personally think it was publicity because she saw that the family was really adamant that Darlie didn't do this after she wrote the book. And she might have been thinking, you know what? they could get her out of there. And I've wrote this book. So let me go ahead and nip it in the bud before I get there. And then if she would have wrote the prelude to it after she got out, she would have made a ton of money on that. Now, all I've done is make a few videos here and there and state my opinion about the case, which is pretty much like Barb Davis's was. And this woman tried to have me arrested. She blamed the fingerprint of being mine. She's just cut anybody who talks to Bryan can't talk to her type of deal. There are posts like that of her out there saying that. But she's holding hands with with Barb by Devin and Damon's grave. For those that are studying the case, I suggest that you pick up a copy of Precious Angels because it's very damaging. It's very accurate. They can't say that it's not accurate now, and they say, "Oh, Barb Davis changed her mind." They can't have it both ways. They can't. And Barb Davis isn't here to tell us, but what she basically said was there were some pictures that she didn't see, but she discusses the bruising in her book. She discusses it. She says she didn't see this. I think Barb Davis is connected to Chris Brown, and Chris Brown is connected to Dana Brown, which is Dion Routier's wife. And you can see her being asked a question on the Lisa Gibbons show as an audience member. They don't tell you that's Darren's sister-in-law, though. Now, I know it's her because I've looked at the pictures, and she's got a very distinct scar on her forehead. I think they're all connected. The money grab was right off the rip. They went on shows. The day that Darlie was given the death penalty, the day after that, the family was on a plane to New York and doing a Maury Povich show.